Good afternoon, everyone. Can everybody hear me?
Sounds good.
My name is Mary Salas-Fricke, and I'm the moderator for today's press conference for the Refugio incident. We'll be presenting information on the latest developments. The speakers today are Captain Charlene Downey from the U.S. Coast Guard, Yvonne Adassi from the Department of Fish and Wildlife.
Can you spell that?
Yes, Downey is spelled D-O-W-N-Y. Adassi, A-D-D-A-S-S-I. And then from the US EPA, we have Steve Calanog, C-A-L-A-N-O-G. And then from our local representation, Robert Troy. Our state on-scene coordinator, Officer Santos Cabral, C-A-B-R-A-L. And then from the responsible party, Patrick Hodgins, H-O-D-G-I-N-S, and Rick McMichael. His last name is spelled M-C-M-I-C-H-A-E-L. The format of this press conference is to have some brief statements from the participants of the Unified Command. Then we will open the floor to questions. Because of our operations and to keep them moving, we're limiting approximately 30 minutes for this press conference. We will have one question, then we will take one question per media outlet, and then we'll go back around for your follow-up questions if you have them. Okay, and we'll go ahead and follow that format to give everybody an opportunity to ask their question. Let me go ahead and introduce our first speaker, Captain Charlene Downey with the U.S. Federal Coast Guard.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today, NOAA personnel trained in oil observation conducted an overflight of known sheen areas, including the area between Campus Point to Coal Oil Point. Only widely scattered areas of sheen were observed, and the remaining oil on water is continuing to dissipate due to natural weathering. Oil from the spill is primarily being driven by the wind. Winds are continuing to be from the west, causing generally eastward movement of the offshore oil. During this morning's overflight, a new on-water observation was noted. A black-brown oil slick with associated rainbow and silver sheen was observed approximately 2 miles off El Capitan, 3 miles long by 50 meters wide, approximately. This area is known for oil seeps. We are sending personnel out to the site to sample the oil to potentially determine its source. Regarding the use of dispersants, we understand there have been a number of questions and concerns regarding the use of dispersants for this response. The Unified Command evaluated the use of dispersants early on the first day of the incident and determined that dispersants would not be used. Ms. Yvonne Adassi, Deputy Administrator of the Office of Oil Spill Prevention and Response, will expand further. Thank you.
So good afternoon. As you heard the previous speaker say, the Unified Command looked at the use of dispersants and decided against it. You should know that California law prohibits the use of dispersants on the near shore and shorelines, which could be, let me see if I can say this a different way. Dispersants are not allowed to be used on shorelines anywhere along the California coast, and some would interpret that to include the nearshore environment. It's California policy that dispersants will not be used in waters of less than 60 feet of depth. Use of this dispersants was deemed to be not only ineffective given the nature of the crude oil, but also due to the close proximity to the shoreline. Other factors that would have influenced the decision included the difficulty to avoid contact with the nearshore wildlife especially the sensitive snowy plovers, a nearshore nesting bird that is also on the endangered species list. When analyzing dispersant use for this event or any other event, the final determinant is whether or not there would be an overall environmental benefit for that use, and in this case, there was not.
Good afternoon. I'm Steve Kalanog with U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, and I'm serving as the Deputy Incident Commander. EPA continues to oversee and monitor the responsible parties' cleanup efforts in and around the spill location in the inland zone. Part of that work that was going on today and will be continuing is flushing out the culverts that go under 101 in the rail line, implementing measures to ensure that no future or oil is subsequently released in this cleanup effort into the water there. And at the same time, we're working with the various federal, state, and local agencies and the responsible party to develop a cleanup plan for the inland area that was impacted by the release that occurred last week. And EPA continues to bring its resources to bear and work with our federal, state, and local partners to coordinate our efforts to respond to this release as efficiently and as effectively as possible.
Good afternoon. My name is Robert Troy, Deputy Director with the Santa Barbara County Office of Emergency Management. Santa Barbara County personnel have been and remain engaged around the clock in ongoing coordination of the Unified Command, Joint Information Center, and the county's Emergency Operations Center. There are no county beach closures at this time. Numerous county departments continue to support the incident response. The Department of Public Works is providing signage for road closures. The Fire Department and the Sheriff's Office are providing ongoing logistical, operational, and security support for the incident response. The Department of Planning and Development is expediting the restoration of the release site. The Department of Public Health is conducting ongoing testing and monitoring to ensure that we have safe conditions throughout the entire county. Other county personnel from other departments have been providing assistance as needed. We'd also like to take this opportunity to thank our public safety partners in this effort. We've received a great amount of coordination and support. The California Office of Emergency Services, the Governor's Office, the City of Santa Barbara, UCSB, the City of Goleta, and other surrounding agencies have been and continue to be involved in supporting and coordinating with us. We appreciate their support. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Officer Santos Cabral with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. I'm serving in the capacity as the State On-Scene Coordinator for this event at this time. California Department of Fish and Wildlife, as a member of the Unified Command, remains committed to the people of Santa Barbara County and the nation to provide the most efficient and effective response possible. The fishery closure remains in effect to protect public safety. An updated map with fishery closure coordinates has been provided to make it easier for the public and for sportsmen. California Fish and Wildlife Patrol Boat remains on scene enforcing the provisions of this fishery closure. The fishery closure also applies to shore-based shellfish collection and fishing. Fish and wildlife officers are actively patrolling the shoreline and coastlines within Santa Barbara County to ensure no one is fishing in the closed areas and for the public safety. Wildlife is mobile and moves much faster than oil cans sometimes. Some animals have been spotted outside of the area of the spill. I ask the public to please report any sightings of oiled animals to the Oiled Wildlife Care Network at the following number: 877-823-6926. Provide the best description you can of the animal and the situation, along with the coordinates or location, so our teams can recover the animal. The state of California is working with the Unified Command to identify volunteer opportunities. Interested individuals can register to participate by completing the volunteer form located at our Cal Spill Watch website. That address is as follows: calspillwatch.dfg.ca.gov. And look under the Refugio incident under the tab Volunteer. Further details on dates and times will be available later throughout the day. I'd like to end off here giving totals as of 1200 hours today's date, May 24th. Oiled birds captured, 13. Oiled mammals captured, 8. Dead birds on arrival, 7. Dead mammals on arrival, 4. Lastly, I'd like to end with, as a graduate of the University of California, Santa Barbara, and a resident of the Tri-Counties, I share in the concerns of the community. We are working hard to restore the environment to its natural state. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. I'm Rick McMichael, Senior Director of Operations for Plains All-American. Every day, we continue to see visible progress with the response effort. Regarding beach cleanup, our response workers are still collecting oil materials washing up on the shore, such as seaweed and kelp. In terms of activity at the release site, we have completed this phase of emptying the oil from the affected section of pipeline. It's taking longer than we expected because there were additional safeguards we had to put in place in order to empty this portion of the pipeline. We have recovered approximately 450 to 500 barrels of oil from the affected part of the pipeline, which is approximately 18,900 to 21,000 gallons. We just received approval from the Unified Command of a plan to move the crude oil to a remote site for more accurate measurement and segregated and sealed storage under the direction of an independent third-party inspector. Based on the most current information and some additional recalculations, we now believe the worst-case release amount is approximately 100 barrels, or 4,200 gallons, lower than we previously estimated. This net downward adjustment is the result of netting the 450 barrels removed from the pipeline against an adjustment to the previous calculation of 370 barrels. There's a small difference in this calculation because in all cases, we have rounded the final estimate upward to the nearest 100. So to recap, our current estimate of the worst case volume released is now 2,400 barrels, or 101,000 gallons. I want to note that our efforts to recover oil from the pipeline are ongoing and all calculations remain under review. We are moving forward with the preparations for extracting the affected section of pipe from the ground. We have to make the release site safe to remove it. The work plan outlines the steps we will take to ensure everyone's safety and the conditions of the area and the pipe to be preserved and recorded. PHMSA is on site to supervise the preparation for an eventual extraction of the piece of pipe. We have not yet determined when we will actually remove the pipe from the ground, but it will likely be within the coming week. Before I close, I want to remind the community that for those who have questions or who would like to submit a claim, they can call 866-753-3619. We regret the impact of this incident has had on this community and pledge to remain aggressively engaged in the recovery efforts until the job is done. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you once again for being here. And again, Captain, thank you to the United States Coast Guard for their dedication and support of this this incident, to the state agencies and all the local agencies who are working so hard to mitigate this as quickly as possible, as well as all the volunteers who have been volunteering to help with this situation, and to the residents of California and to this area for this unfortunate incident. I would like to take a few moments to reiterate a few points from yesterday. Line 901 is part of an interstate pipeline regulated by PHMSA under federal law. It is equipped with one check valve and 3 remotely controlled motor-operated valves. The remote controlled motor-operated valves are operated by our Midland Control Center via Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition, or SCADA system, which provides real-time operating information to our controllers. The Control Center monitors flows and pressures on a 24-hour basis and has the ability to remotely start and stop pumps and open and close motor-operated valves. Those pumps move the oil throughout the pipeline and are equipped with controls that are programmed to automatically shut down under certain operating conditions. All of our pump stations are equipped with pressure monitoring devices, and they will automatically shut down. And again, I want to make that clear. Those pump stations are equipped with pressure monitoring devices that will automatically shut down if operating pressures exceed maximum discharge or minimum suction thresholds. There has been some commentary questioning why the pipeline did not have automatic shutoff valves. You can understand that closing a valve on an operating pipeline increases the pressure within the line. Use of these types of valves could have the unintended consequence of pressuring up that line beyond its maximum operating pressure. We would not want to have an incident like that. It is much safer for controllers who understand the hydraulics of a crude oil pipeline to shut it down using a planned sequence set of steps than for a computer to automatically close that valve on oil that is traveling in a confined space that's already under high pressure. Finally, our extensive air monitoring results have indicated that respirators are not required by any response personnel. And again, we regret this unfortunate accidental release and the impact it has had on the environment and to the community. Thank you.
Okay, now we're ready to move on to the next portion, some Q&A. Remember, you have one question, and then if you have a follow-up, please wait till we can give others an opportunity to ask a question. Then we'll circle back around to you. Yes?
If the gentleman from NOAA could tell us a little bit more about this slick that they spotted.
Good afternoon. My name is Jordan Stout. I'm with NOAA's Emergency Response Division. I'm a scientific support coordinator. As I've mentioned and has been discussed in previous press conferences, most of what we've been seeing normally in the overflights had been the widely scattered light sheen, oftentimes what we would describe as a silver sheen. Today, the patch of dark oil or black oil that we saw south of El Capitan was very different than the types of oil we had been seeing the last few days, and it also occurs within an area of known seep activity. So as was mentioned before, we're going to try to verify whether it has anything to do with the seeps. It looks very different than in the color and the darkness than what we have seen before in recent days from the spill. So it may not be associated with the spill, but we want to try to verify that as quickly as possible.
Thank you. Are there more questions? Yes.
How many contractors are involved with the response, and are they included in the number of personnel, the 650 or so that's been provided before?
I believe that there are 646 contractors on site today.
So what's the total number of personnel including?
Do you have the total? No, I don't. I'll have to get back with you on that. I don't have the total involved.
Yes.
Earlier, my reporter and I, we were driving off the 101 near Refugio, and there was a big truck with a pump, and we just wanted to know what workers were doing out there today. They wanted to comment. There's a big pile of looked like debris, trash, oil, and a pump connected to the truck. Was that truck maybe pumping out more stuff out, or?
I'm not familiar with that, but I can get back with you.
Okay, no worries. Thank you.
Are there any others? Yes.
So the question is about volunteers, and I'm glad you asked that question. We often use a lot of what we call convergent volunteers. Those are volunteers that are associated with a lot of local non-governmental organizations that have specific training. We've utilized volunteers in the in wildlife operations, those types of areas. We do understand that people feel very fervently and very strongly about trying to help out with the response. And so you heard a talking point earlier saying that we are working on different opportunities for folks to be able to come out. So go onto the website. We are looking at some things happening tomorrow that folks can volunteer for. Obviously, we want people to be safe. It's warm out there. This is oil in the environment. So there will be a number of different activities that will be going on later on this week. We will be providing training for folks. So please take a look at our website.
But could you explain the problem for people to come out now before that's organized?
Well, because oil is a hazardous substance. So you need to be careful. You need to be able to be properly trained. You need to understand what the hazards and risks are. And so we have utilized volunteers up until now in areas considered sort of non-hazardous areas that are not in contact with oil. But we've also heard from the community that they want to be able to go out and help clean up the oiled areas, but they want to do it in a way that is safe. And so that is what we are working on for the next 24 hours, also through probably next weekend. My name is Yvonne Adassi. I'm the Deputy Administrator at the Office of Spill Prevention and Response, California Department of Fish and Game. Thank you.
Any more questions? Let's take this one from this lady back here, since she hasn't had an opportunity. And then we'll circle back to this gentleman. Yvonne.
Yes, I'm sorry.
More.
I should say Department of Fish and Wildlife. It's hard to take the game out of the girl.
Since the focus is going to go to clean up on land, have you made a determination as to what substances will be used for removing the oil from the areas, whether they're rock, cobble, or what have you?
Okay, so the question is, what is going to be going on in terms of cleanup areas along different shorelines? I can give you some general information about how we go about evaluating shorelines. If there are more specific questions, I have Ellen Furrow-Daniels, who is working here in the command post on this particular topic. You know that there's a lot of different habitats out there. There's what we call fine-grained sandy beaches. Those are the beautiful beaches that Santa Barbara is known for. There are cobble, pebble, boulder beaches. Anything that's bigger than a normal piece of paper is considered a boulder. You often hear sort of bedrock areas. We typically think of those as rocky intertidal. And then there's cliff faces. All of those areas have different cleanup methods that have been developed by NOAA, have been vetted by a number of folks throughout the country. Unfortunately, every spill we have, we learn more and more about it. Right now, what's going on in the environmental unit is they're taking a look at the different types of habitats we have, this type of oil, what's going on here in California at this time of year in terms of species that are at risk, those types of things, and determining the best cleanup method for each of those habitats. You will be hearing about that over the coming days and probably over about the next week. So it's not that we're not out there cleaning up. We clean up to a certain point to get the gross oil out. And then the question is, how do we better clean up what's left without further damaging the habitat and being sensitive to cultural and tribal concerns? Does that answer your question?
Yes, and we'll look forward to more of those specifics when you have them.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I believe this gentleman with the cap had a follow-up question.
Yeah, the other question I had is it normal for seeps offshore to have a 3-mile slick? And the other question, is there any known pipelines in the area where that slick has been spotted?
My name is David Valentine. I'm a professor of marine science at UC Santa Barbara. I can answer the first portion of that. I'm not a pipeline expert, but I can talk about the seeps. Yes, the answer is quite simple. These are the most prolific seeps known in the world, or maybe perhaps the second. 3 miles is typical of these seeps. So the location where oil was spotted today is well within the norm for the hydrocarbon seeps off of Coal Oil Point.
I believe there was a question. You had a question about the pipeline too?
I was just wondering if there's any pipelines in that area under the ocean floor or on the ocean floor that also might be responsible.
That information I'll have to circle back with you to answer. Are there any more questions? Okay. Yes.
Could you just provide a little bit more detail about the work being done at the culvert site and what that site looks like right now?
I believe the area from the spill site under Highway 101 and to the railroad has been washed and cleaned. We're still working with the Unified Command to determine what the best options are for cleaning the culvert under the railroad.
Are there more questions? Okay. Members of the Joint Information Center for this incident and myself will be available to help you with your, if you have a question or there was something we needed to follow up with you, we'll get your information. As I said, this press conference was to last about a half an hour because we need to get back into operations again. I just want to point out, too, that we have some graphics here for your stories to help you with them, to help you write your stories. There's the sample fishery closure signs so that when people see these out in the community, they know that they're actually coming from us with regard to this spill. So thank you very much. And please come see me if you have questions.